Right now, as you watch this, your body is making a decision. Not consciously, not with your brain. Deep inside your cells, in pathways that were written 3 billion years ago, something is being measured, something is being weighed. The temperature outside, the quality of the air, the microbes living in your gut, the stress hormones flooding your bloodstream, the UV radiation hitting your skin. Your body is asking a question that every living thing on Earth is asking right now. Is this body still built for this world? Because here's what the science is starting to show us, and I want you to really sit with this. The world is changing faster than at almost any point in the last 66 million years. Faster than the asteroid that killed the dinosaurs changed it. Faster than the great ice ages. Faster than evolution was ever designed to keep up with. And yet, life is already responding. Animals are changing shape. Immune systems are rewiring. Bodies are literally shrinking. Gut bacteria are mutating. Behaviors that took 10,000 years to establish are being abandoned in a single generation. So the question isn't whether life will adapt. The question is, will we? To understand where we're going, we need to understand what's being asked of us. 2025 was officially confirmed as one of the 3 hottest years in recorded human history. Not just warm, not just a hot summer. Globally, systemically, persistently hot. The oceans hit record temperatures. Glaciers that have existed for 800,000 years are gone. Ecosystems that took millions of years to build are unraveling in decades. Now I need you to understand something that most people miss when they hear climate statistics. They hear 2 degrees warmer, and they think, that doesn't sound like much. I barely notice 2 degrees. But 2 degrees of average global warming doesn't mean a slightly warmer Tuesday. It means the moisture content of the atmosphere increases by 7% for every single degree. It means the boundaries between ecosystems, the invisible lines that determine what lives where, shift by hundreds of kilometers. It means the timing of every single biological event on Earth, migration, mating, blooming, hatching, is being thrown out of sync. Scientists have a name for this. They call it ecological mismatch. And it's already catastrophic. A caterpillar hatches when it always did, when the temperature says go. But the trees it feeds on now leaf out 2 weeks earlier because of warmer springs. The caterpillar shows up and there's nothing to eat. The bird that normally feeds on that caterpillar to fuel its own migration. It arrives on schedule, and the caterpillar is already gone. The whole cascade unravels from a 2-week offset that has nothing to do with anything individual creatures did wrong. And the pace of this? A 2025 study published in Nature described climate change as, and I love this image, like shuffling a deck of cards. Except the shuffling is getting faster and faster and faster. Species that took millions of years to find their place in an ecosystem are being replaced or displaced in decades. So that's the pressure. That's the crucible. And inside it, something extraordinary is happening. Life is fighting back. And the methods it's using, they should terrify you. They should amaze you. And they should make you think very hard about your own body. Here's something I want you to think about. Animals don't have scientists. They don't have governments, or conferences, or action plans. They just have one instruction: survive or don't. And right now, watching what animals are doing to survive is like watching the future write itself in real time. Let's start with something that should sound impossible. Animals are getting smaller. Not gradually, over millennia. Now, in our lifetime. Across dozens of species, birds, fish, mammals, body sizes are shrinking as global temperatures rise. This is being documented in real time, and it isn't random. It's physics. Smaller bodies have a higher surface area relative to their volume. That means they shed heat faster. In a warming world, a smaller body is a cooler body. Researchers measuring bird specimens in natural history museums against live birds caught today are finding the difference. Leg bones shorter, wings longer relative to body size. The blueprint is being redrawn. Now let that sit for a moment, because humans are animals too. And while no scientist is saying we're about to shrink, evolution doesn't work that fast for us. The pressure exists. The same thermodynamic logic applies to every mammal on Earth. In Northern Europe, tawny owls come in two versions, gray and brown. For centuries, gray dominated in snowy regions because gray blends into snow. As climate change reduces snowfall across Scandinavia, gray owls are vanishing. Not through death, through reproduction. Brown owls survive better in the new conditions, so brown owls are having more offspring, and the gray genetic signature is fading from the population. But here's the part that will blow your mind. The gene that makes an owl gray isn't just about color. It's bundled with genes that affect fat storage, starvation resistance, and energy management in cold climates. The color was just the visible signal of a whole survival package. As the package becomes less useful, the whole bundle is quietly being deleted from the gene pool. Evolution isn't just changing what animals look like. It's deciding which survival strategies are still worth keeping. In the western United States, there's a small rabbit-like creature called the American pika. It's been living on rocky mountain slopes for thousands of years, coming out during the day to gather grasses and wildflowers. Not anymore. Researchers have documented that pikas are shifting to a new schedule, foraging only at dawn, dusk, and night, hiding underground during daylight hours in burrows that are up to 10 degrees Celsius cooler than the surface. They've also changed their diet, relying more on moss, which is less nutritious but available all year, to reduce how long they need to spend in dangerous surface temperatures. This is not learned behavior that was passed down. This is biological pressure reshaping an entire species' lifestyle in real time. And if you're thinking, okay, but humans already have air conditioning, hold that thought. Because what happens in the parts of the world where people don't? In late October 2025, something happened for the first time in recorded human history. Mosquitoes were found in Iceland. Iceland, one of only 2 places on Earth that had historically been mosquito-free. And with the mosquitoes come the viruses they carry. Dengue, chikungunya, diseases that were once confined to the tropics, now pushing into Northern Europe, now showing up in places where human immune systems have literally no evolutionary experience with them. The immune systems of people in Iceland, in Scandinavia, in Canada, they've never met these pathogens. There was no pressure to develop resistance. For thousands of years, the cold kept the mosquitoes out. The cold is gone. The biological reckoning is coming. Here's where it gets personal. Here's where I need you to stop thinking about animals and start thinking about yourself. Because the same pressures bearing down on the pika, on the owl, they're bearing down on you. And your body is already responding. You just haven't been told. There is a biological limit to how much heat the human body can survive. Scientists call it the wet bulb temperature limit, a combination of heat and humidity beyond which sweating stops working. Your body's cooling system is essentially a swamp cooler. It works by evaporation. If the air is already saturated with moisture, the sweat on your skin, can't evaporate. The cooling stops, and within hours, you die. That wet bulb limit for humans is approximately 35 degrees Celsius, roughly 95 degrees Fahrenheit at 100% humidity. It sounds extreme. But a 2025 study in Nature Communications projected that by the end of this century, population exposure to combined extreme heat and UV radiation will increase between 1.98 and 3.69 times above current levels. India, China, Pakistan, billions of people face the sharpest increases. And the body's response? We're beginning to see populations in tropical regions showing subtle physiological differences. Slightly more efficient sweat glands, marginally different fat distribution, altered blood vessel architecture near the skin surface. These aren't dramatic changes yet, but they're the first whispers of what extended selection pressure looks like in human biology. I want to talk about something that lives inside you. Right now, in your intestines, there are approximately 38 trillion microbial cells, more microbes than human cells in your own body. This ecosystem, your gut microbiome, does things that your own cells cannot. It digests certain foods. It produces vitamins. It trains your immune system. It communicates with your brain. Without it, you would be dead within days. Climate change is reshaping this ecosystem, and most people have no idea. A landmark 2025 paper in the Lancet Planetary Health laid out the mechanisms. Heat stress disrupts the composition of your gut bacteria. Extreme temperatures reduce the diversity of your internal microbial population. Changing food systems, droughts, flooding, failed harvests, alter what you eat, and what you eat directly determines which microbes thrive inside you. Water contamination, carrying new pathogens in a warming world, introduces foreign bacteria that can destabilize your internal community. The researchers found that populations already under multiple stressors, malnutrition, heat stress, poor water quality, are the most vulnerable. In parts of Africa and South Asia, they found that climate change isn't just threatening food security. It's threatening the biological machinery inside the human body that makes food security even possible. Your gut is an ecosystem, and ecosystems don't like rapid change. But here's the flip side, and this is where it gets genuinely hopeful. Microbiomes can adapt faster than genomes, because your gut bacteria have a generation time of 20 minutes, not 20 years. Diversity in your microbiome gives your internal ecosystem resilience. The question is whether we can maintain and deliberately cultivate that diversity as the external world shifts. Your immune system was trained by your ancestors' enemies, the bacteria that got into their wounds, the parasites that infected their water, the viruses that swept through their villages, every pathogen that killed someone in your lineage but not your direct ancestor. They left a memory in your immune system, a blueprint for defense. That training took thousands of years, and now, in a matter of decades, the roster of enemies is changing. As mosquitoes push into new territories, they bring diseases with them. As warming oceans produce conditions friendly to new bacteria, including Vibrio, which causes flesh-eating infections, coastal populations face pathogens they have no evolutionary history with. As flooding and extreme weather events create ideal conditions for fungal growth, respiratory threats emerge that previous generations literally never encountered. The immune system can learn. That's the miracle of it. But it learns from exposure. And a first exposure can also be a fatal one. This is what makes the next 50 years so biologically unprecedented. The immune learning that happens across populations right now will shape the vulnerability of billions of future people. Now I want to talk about something that no other species on Earth has access to. A tool that didn't exist until about 70 years ago, and that has only truly become powerful in the last decade. We know our own code. Humans mapped the human genome. We understand, not fully, not yet, but increasingly, which genes do what, which mutations confer advantages, which biological switches control which outcomes. And with technologies like CRISPR, we have the ability, for the first time in the history of life on Earth, to deliberately edit that code. Now, I'm not here to tell you that genetic engineering will save us. The ethical questions are enormous. The unintended consequences are unpredictable. And there's a profound difference between curing genetic diseases and engineering humans for environmental survival. But consider what's already being explored. Genes associated with heat tolerance in populations that have lived near the equator for thousands of years. Genes that allow certain groups to metabolize non-standard diets with extraordinary efficiency, like the Inuit adaptation to high-fat diets, or the Bajau people of Southeast Asia, who have genetically enlarged spleens that allow them to dive to extraordinary depths. The Bajau people, and this one always stops me, they spend 60% of their time underwater. Researchers studying their genome found that a specific gene variant gives them spleens that are 50% larger than neighboring land-dwelling populations. A bigger spleen means more oxygen-storing red blood cells on demand. That genetic variant evolved, naturally, because the people without it drowned, or ate less, or had fewer children. Natural selection, brutal and efficient. Now imagine applying that logic, not over thousands of years, but deliberately, consciously, with full understanding of what we're doing. That's the frontier we're standing at. And whether we step across it depends on decisions being made right now in ethics committees and research labs and government halls around the world. But there's a more immediate wild card, one that doesn't require a single gene edit. The fastest evolutionary tool is not genetics, it's behavior. The pika went nocturnal. The sea turtles nest earlier. The California sea lion swam farther, dove deeper, diversified its diet. None of these required genetic mutations that took generations to propagate. They were behavioral shifts, choices made by individuals that then spread through populations. Humans are the most behaviorally flexible organisms that have ever lived. We changed our diets from hunter-gatherers to agricultural societies in a few thousand years. We moved from the equator to the Arctic. We built cities in deserts and drained swamps to grow food. The next biological hack for humans may not show up in a laboratory. It may show up in our choices, when we sleep, what we eat, where we live, how we structure our cities, how we design our buildings. There is already a shift happening. Urban planners are redesigning cities for heat, more green space, white roofs, underground infrastructure. Architects in South Asia and the Middle East are reviving ancient passive cooling techniques that kept buildings tolerable before air conditioning existed. Dietitians are studying traditional diets from equatorial populations that maintained health under heat stress for millennia. The knowledge exists. The question is whether we'll use it. I want to end with something that I think about a lot. When researchers study adaptation in other species, there's a metric they use called evolutionary load. It measures the gap between where a population is, biologically, genetically, and where it needs to be to thrive in its current environment. The bigger the gap, the heavier the load. The heavier the load, the more likely the population struggles. A 2026 meta-study of 73 vertebrate species found that while many animals are showing adaptive responses to climate change, those responses are almost universally incomplete. The animals are adapting, but not fast enough. There's still a gap, still a load. And here's the honest truth. For most species on Earth, that gap will be closed by extinction. The ones that can't adapt won't, and they'll disappear. That's how evolution has always worked. But humans sit in a uniquely strange position. We have the cognitive ability to understand exactly what is happening to us. We can read the science. We can model the future. We can make decisions about our diet, our cities, our genes, our emissions that no other species can make. We created this pressure, which means we might be the only species in Earth's history that could actually choose its own next upgrade. But choosing requires honesty. It requires looking at the data without flinching. It requires accepting that evolution doesn't care about comfort. It doesn't care about politics. It doesn't care about economics. It cares about one thing only. Does this design still work in this world? And if the answer is no, and the science is increasingly suggesting that significant parts of our current lifestyle, our current food systems, our current city designs, our current relationship with the biological world don't, then we have a choice that the pika doesn't have, that the tawny owl doesn't have, that the sea turtle doesn't have. We can choose to change before we're forced to. The next upgrade isn't coming. It's already here, in the shrinking birds, in the nocturnal pikas, in the shifting gut microbes of billions of people already feeling the heat, in the mosquitoes landing in Iceland for the first time in history. The question is whether we're paying attention, because the species that survive aren't always the strongest. They're the ones that see what's coming and move first.